Hey, everybody, this is Bob Cargill from Bob Cargill's Marketing Show. We are looking at the calendar right now, and it is Tuesday. And I do have to look at the calendar because this life in quarantine, the days tend to blur together. It is Tuesday, October 20, 2020. We're 6 or 7 months or so into this pandemic, this coronavirus crisis. So I want to say I'm thinking of you. I'm wishing you well. It started this whole thing back early in the year, early March, late February, and geez, now we're almost towards the end of October. Elections are just around the corner, a big time of year. Hopefully before long, we'll be able to have the pandemic in the rear view mirror and we can get out to seeing people in person, not working from home every day like I have been, and I'm sure many of you have been doing too. This is episode 113 of Bob Cargill's Marketing Show. Time goes by, as do all these episodes. And today I am very thankful, very happy, very excited to have not one, but two special guests. And Matt and Robert, this is a first for me, 113th episode in. This is the first time I've been interviewing two folks, Matt Haas and Robert Lee. I'm so excited to have these two gentlemen on the show with me. Matt is a web developer and a YouTube guru, and we'll find out a lot more about Matt as well as Robert. Robert is a videographer, has his own video production company, and these two gentlemen, we're going to learn an awful lot from them today. Matt and Robert, I'm going to ask you to respectively introduce yourselves to those who are tuned in, watching and listening. Maybe we'll start with Robert.
Okay, I was gonna say if we're gonna go clockwise or counterclockwise, but that answers the question. So, as Bob says, I'm Robert Lee, and as I start off with our show, Roast Wednesday, I'm the executive video producer and founder of ShaLaLaLa Productions, where we create marketing videos as well as providing live streaming service to the medical and the education community, and with especially in pop culture. And it's always fun to be able to try to meet the needs of the clients in terms of addressing their video needs, as well as making sure they're staying target on their goals and purposes in creating their videos.
Excellent. Robert, and right, sorry to interrupt before you even begin, Matt, but I was remiss in not saying at the beginning, at the top of the show, that you are co-hosts of Verbose Wednesdays, and we're going to talk a lot about that in just a minute. That's a big deal, and I've been watching it, and I've been very impressed, and we're going to hear all about it as this show progresses today. Matt, you are on.
Excellent. Yes, Matt Haas, that's who I am. I have a website called allthingsyoutube.com where it will point you to my YouTube channel. I am a YouTube expert. I have several YouTube channels, but the one I'm pushing now is the All Things YouTube, and it's a show where I cover anything that's new and different on the interface. I tell you and show you what that is, so you know all the latest analytics, all the new tools, all the new tricks, how to set your videos up properly to get those views. That's what I cover on the channel. I stream every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. That's a lot of fun. Open Q&A the whole time. Get to help a lot of people that way. So yeah, web developer by day, YouTuber by night, and I'm just having a blast.
Geez, from between the two of you, I am going to learn a lot during the next half hour to an hour, depending how long we talk, as will everyone, should I say, who is watching and listening. Matt, I need to hit you up on All Things YouTube. I have my own channel, you probably know, with hundreds of videos, but I think I have more videos than I have subscribers, and I have to do something about that. We'll talk, if not today, after the show.
Be happy to help.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. Tell everybody, if they haven't, and I'd be surprised if they haven't, tuned into Verbose Wednesdays. I know, Robert, you I believe started the show, then Matt joined you at some point, but tell me all about the show. I've watched it, I'm impressed, but I say tell whoever's watching and listening all about Verbose Wednesdays, what they could expect if they tune in. One thing's a pretty dead giveaway. It's on Wednesdays, I would imagine. But other than that, tell everybody about it.
Well, the show pretty much we focus on video production, video marketing, live streaming, everything inside of the video production. and it's a matter of just finding engaging ways to engage with the audience on those matters, sharing what we know, as well as addressing questions that folks may have within those categories. And it's just I think a lot of it is just making sure that when we present the material, that it's, if you pardon the expression, organic, in a way that we're making sure that we're understanding, like you know, what the questions may come up with from the audience, as well as any anything that we come up with, whether it's a topic or how we talk about it, as it's one that's helpful and engaging. So, and that's pretty much what we focus on those topic. And in terms of Matt's involvement, he was there from day one. We both know each other from, we both worked on the same workshop that we started in April with they call it LEDA, which is live streaming every day in April, through an organization called Live Streaming Pros, and it gave a great opportunity for us to, either those that are just getting their feet wet in live streaming, how they present themselves, as well as being able to learn what it takes to create a great program. And so when it came time to try to continue what we learned, I automatically thought of Matt to reach out to him if he was interested in doing the show with me, just because I enjoyed the content he put out there on YouTube, as well as just how he presented himself. That I thought it'd be a great way to learn how he conduct himself, what it takes to run a great show, and do my best to do my part to share what I know in all things related to video production and video marketing.
So Robert, both you and Matt came up with the idea and were there from day one together. Is that how it started?
So video, sorry, Verbose Wednesday was originally a social media post I would put out every Wednesday on social media. And when it came time to try to create a program, I thought, since now with the pandemic hit us, there's more focus on video content, it made sense to try to slightly repurpose a social media post into something engaging and that's in live streaming. And that's how I naturally thought of creating the program. And then from the idea is a matter of just being able to try to make sure to create content that's engaging and get people involved, or at least want to come in every week to watch program.
I'm glad I asked that follow-up question, because that explains why I was thinking you had started it, because I follow you very closely. Robert and I have known each other for a long time. Matt, we haven't met until today. You had to remind me, because I felt like I knew you, because I've seen you so many times on the show with Robert. You guys are an awesome team. The synergy between the two of you, Matt and Robert, you are pros. Matt, what about your background, and how did you, I mean, Robert kind of explained how you guys got together, but how did the genesis of all this thing, how has it evolved? What's the journey been like for you so far?
Well, it's been a lot of fun. As Robert said, we were in a workshop together, and we're both geeks, and we both love pop culture. So it was a perfect fit. And I'm glad you said that, because I think we do banter off each other really well during the show. And that's really important to hold an audience's attention. But yeah, it's how many shows? We're less than 20 shows in now. We do it weekly, and it's been a lot of fun. We go back and forth, figure out what we're going to talk about, and we usually jump on the session a little earlier before it goes live, and we bang out a few details, and we turn it on, and we go.
I know you do. I've watched.
It's hard to turn it off. When we get going, it's full speed ahead. It's a lot of fun.
Well, you both have a lot of energy and knowledge, and I couldn't resist asking you to be on my show, turning the tables on you guys, because you're usually host. And I know from my own experience, it's different being a guest. It kind of throws, if you used to being the host and control of the conversation, if you will, it's a whole different perspective. And I don't want you to hold back today, by the way. I don't want you to feel like you can't have that banter between each other, and
Awesome.
Maybe I can join in at some point. But let me ask some more questions about the show. It is live. That's a difference between my show. I tape mine and then put them up a day or 2 or 3 later. You guys do it live. Is there additional pressure? What are the advantages? What is the downside to doing it live? How did, again, either of you can answer these questions.
The advantages are the interaction, because when you're live, you can interact with the audience, and people like when you interact with them. It's just human nature. And that's the big plus about Verbose Wednesdays. You can go there, you can watch it live, and you can interact with us hosts, and you can ask your questions and we'll answer them, and we'll get ideas from the audience. It's a lot of fun that way. And we'll have a topic too. So we're delivering value and we're interacting. That's why we do it live.
So, this is a marketing show, and I always want to point out, emphasize, call out, highlight, etc. The learnings, the takeaways right there. You said something very, very important. It's interactive. And today, marketers, advertisers, brands, businesses, there's nothing more important than interacting, engaging with your audience, allowing them to ask questions, answering those questions in real time. And again, I've seen the show enough to know that you guys do that. And what would your advice be to brands and businesses who aren't doing something like you're doing? How do they get started, and how could they use it to sell products and services and put a face on their brand?
Well, I mean, the first thing I think of is that a lot of the videos I see, whether it's live streaming or produced or pre-recorded, there's still that underlying basis of the basic marketing principle of just knowing your target audience. And especially, you got to know what content that you're going to produce as to what you're going to present from the camera. That's what I think that's sometimes people forget before they go on in front of the camera. Not so much what they're going to say, but what's the program going to be about, trying to determine what the goals and purposes are and the meaning objectives of presenting your material. And so for me, and slightly answering the question with a video production answer, I've always been a big advocate of pre-production, and it applies the same principles in live streaming, where not only are you coming up with an idea, but just in terms of just what's the message you're trying to get across, and then everything that revolves around the program, graphics, the other materials and assets that come with it will fall into place, because you're just trying to make sure that the message is coming through. So that would be the big point I would make, is just knowing your content and making sure you have a plan to follow through. I think one of the big things, going back to an earlier point about the workshop that Matt and I were involved in, the big thing that really helped is learning what they call a show flow. And it's the idea of just having like an outline of your program as to like how you structure your content and presenting before you go on live stream. Because I find that is critically important. Just to having the idea and having the content, one thing, but be able to have it in an organized fashion, it really makes a big difference.
Matt, I want to hear your answer. I want to, in between, I want to say something in terms of what I wanted to your point, Robert, add that, I'm almost going to answer my own question. Brands and businesses have been forced, because marketing has changed so much, to suddenly become broadcasters and media stars, if you will, or wannabe media stars. And that isn't easy. I mean, someone like me, I was a copywriter most of my career, and here I am doing YouTube videos and having a podcast, and I know I'm not alone. Matt, over to you.
Yeah, well, quick comment about the topic. Our show is the product, and we market off the show. We market in other YouTube groups. We market on our email newsletters. We market elsewhere, and we bring eyeballs to the show. If a brand is looking to do live streaming, Robert is on point. You have to have a purpose for live streaming, and you have to engage. It's not easy. If you're a brand, don't just jump into this full steam ahead. You've got, because it can go wrong. For example, if you do not engage with the people, that's bad. That reflects
Yes.
poorly on you. You could be like giving value, but if you're ignoring the chat room, which are the people watching you, that's bad. So can live streaming be a marketing tool? Be very difficult to pull that off. I think of live streaming as making your audience better. And then your content or what you're selling or what you're doing online, that's one thing. And then for those who are super fans, they'll watch you live, and a live show can make the fans you have better. It's hard to have a successful business where it's 100% live streaming. You can do it. A lot of people are successful at it, but a lot of people are not. It's much easier to publish edited videos or to do something else online and then use live streaming to make your audience better. That's sort of the way I look at it.
Yeah, no, you made that clear, Matt, and more what I'm suggesting in alluding to is, say you're a sneaker brand or a grocery store or a hair salon. That is your product, those are your services. But I'm saying the advantage to having a live streaming show or any video or podcast show like what I do is you do enhance your brand. You're not necessarily directly selling via that show, but you're building a brand. And I think you were alluding to it. You're closing the gap between you and your audience, especially if you're interacting with them. They're going to be more likely to do business with you at some point.
Absolutely. If you're, I know someone who has her own salon and she's starting to put videos out there. And the whole idea is I'm giving you value. Oh, by the way, I have a shop at this location. If you're around and you want the person who just taught you something interesting to cut your hair. Yeah, absolutely.
Boom. Yeah, because there's trust, there's likability, there's what I said about you at the top of the show, Matt. I've seen you enough on Robert's show to feel like I know you. When you know someone, you trust them, you're more likely to do business with them. And Robert,
100%.
Go ahead. I saw you had your hand raised.
Sorry, I'm like, it just gets me excited just because it hits upon like some of the content that you've put out before, Bob, where you talk about authenticity. And for me, I think the real value in the engagement with the audience is you're getting information, like valuable feedback in real time from the audience. So if you are actually talking about a product or a service that you sell, or even if you're testing something, I mean, that's the best way to get the reaction is from the audience in real time, because something you may not know that the audience may pick up that you can carry out for whatever your next marketing meeting is, or whatever the next project that you're working on. Just because if it makes a big difference of having the information at that moment than to find out like 5 or 6 months after a product launch. It's like, oh darn, we forgot to factor in this variable. So so if anything, it's invaluable in both ways, where the audience get the real-time engagement to know the people in front of the camera authentically and have that one-on-one moment. And if we flip it the other way, the people in front of the camera are getting meaningful dialogue from audience or fans that they can take away, whether it's their next project to make improvements or whatever the next content that they might put together to their next video in terms of getting the more feedback. So,
well, Robert, ironically, you and I met, I believe, through the New England Direct Marketing Association years ago. NEDMA, New England Direct Marketing Association, and direct marketing is what I do for a living. I just happen to use social media to do it. Those are my channels. But direct marketing is a two-way street. It's a dialogue between the brand and the customer, and yeah, it's selling. But so on social media, I'm not direct selling, but I'm indirectly, ideally leading my clients to a sale by having them interact with their customers, and the customers giving feedback, and they build the relationship. And that's what you're telling me about the live stream, and especially you are getting that feedback and engaging the audience. And to me, that is, if not is, should be marketing in 2020. Do you agree, Matt? Are we all on the same page?
If you're not marketing on social media, you're not marketing correctly.
Yeah. Love it.
Without a doubt. Yes.
No, I love it, Matt. And that's what I've been telling my clients, by the way, for years. I started my blog in 2004 and haven't looked back. I was a traditional marketer for many, many years. I still do traditional marketing, but I have made a living the last 10, 15 years or so, partially by educating and consulting to clients, telling them what you just said. Get on social media. Are you going to be left behind?
I love marketing. Here, can I just say?
Yeah, you can.
80% of success is marketing. Maybe even more of that, because, you know, I have the channel All Things YouTube, and it's YouTube. But you know what it really is? It's not really about YouTube. It's a grow an audience channel. You can't be successful without an audience, and you can't get an audience without marketing. So a lot of what I do teaches you how to get eyeballs from off of YouTube onto YouTube, because they love that. That's called a session start. The developers love when your video is what starts a viewer watching on YouTube. They don't have to watch all your thing, but they could be watching 10 different channels before they stop watching. If yours was the first, you get special credit from the YouTube algorithm.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
I want
marketing.
that kind of special. I want that kind of special credit. Man, see, I'm on the creative side. I should actually go over here. The right side, right brain is me. I've been a copywriter, creative director. Now I'm a content creator. I'm all right-brained thinking for the most part.
That's awesome.
To the right. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I've enjoyed it, made a decent career out of it.
Too. I have a design degree. I went to college for design.
That is wicked cool. Yeah, you can see all the colors and background. You do have a nice sense of color and design. But where I'm going is I don't always think analytically and the numbers yet. Usually I have someone who helps me with that, or we partner together on that kind of thing. But it is a left-right brain thing, ideally, marketing, meaning you need strategy. You need that audience, as you said. Robert, you said the same thing. It's all about targeting. You could have the best product, service, presentation, video, podcast in the world, but if you don't have an interested audience and they're not engaging with you, you're dead in the water. Yeah,
exactly. Thumbs up for that one.
Love that. You guys are such pros with the props and all. Hey, I'm going to throw a curveball. So I did tell you a few of the questions I might ask you, but I got plenty of questions up my sleeve that I'm thinking of on the fly, and one's just jumping out at me. I'm looking, because you guys are the experts here. I'm looking at 3 different screens, mine being one of them, and we all have different backgrounds. And I know there's best practices. Now, again, I'm not a video expert, but I spend a lot of time in front of the camera these days. Right. I know you guys spend a ton of time behind the camera, but also in front of a microphone. Tell me, and it may vary a little. There's 2 of you, so maybe the answer is going to be slightly different. What are the best practices for those who, again, are jumping on video for backgrounds and lighting? And hey, if you want to jump into sound and all of that, go ahead. Could be a long
2-second intro before I'll pass it to Robert. I did a video on this exact topic. It's called 22 Tips to Talk to the Camera. So I break it all down, how to do it.
Give the URL right now, Matt. Plug that if you know it off the top of your head.
Yeah, I'll look.
What was the name of it? 22 Tips?
22 Tips to Talk to the Camera. Go on the All Things YouTube, Facebook.
There you go.
Or I'm sorry, the YouTube channel, and just do a search the channel.
Matt is not a marketer, but he's the best non-marketer in marketing that I've ever met.
Well,
so far. No,
I can rattle off a few of them if you want. I don't want to.
Tell me about backgrounds. Why are our 3 backgrounds different? I'm on Zoom all day with all my different clients, and everyone's background is different. What's best practice on that?
My best practice is unprofessional is the new professional. The background should be things that are interesting to you, to show your real self on the camera and on the show. Now, that doesn't mean I don't deliver professional content. I deliver awesome, valuable content But look at this. I've got video games. I've got pop culture, piano. There are things I am interested in my real life, and I think that just enhances it. If you're on a blank wall with a suit and tie, that's not very interesting. So yeah, backgrounds are.
I love Matt's answer. It ties into, Robert knows because he watches my videos and knows how I think. Authenticity, being genuine, being who you are. I say put a face on your brand, a smile on your face. Let people get to know you. Exactly what you said, Matt, and we've never talked before. I agree. However, I do hear a lot of people, or let's say I see them with the green screens and the company logo, and that's it. And I do think to myself, that's kind of, it's professional, but I know nothing. I'm not getting an understanding of who the person in front of the camera is. And so I agree with what you said, 110%. It was something about unprofessional or informal is the new
Unprofessional is the new professional. Yeah.
Fantastic quote. If I was live tweeting this show, that would be a tweet. What do you think, Robert? Do you agree?
I feel like a bull ready to jump out because actually we had this topic discussed in an earlier program. We had a special guest on about the background in presenting. And to me, it always depends on the context of the video that's presenting. A lot of times I look at it is you want to put yourself in the best light and put yourself in the best foot, because you never know who's gonna, not so much who's gonna watch the video, but just who your audience are. So sometimes if it's like a formal presentation or just a formal talk, that it may call for you to get a little bit gussied up. But if it's like an informal a video conference or a message or something like that, that's where something where it's a little bit different, like Matt and I background would come handy. To me it always feels like is a case by case basis as to determine as to how it look. Green screen, I think as long as the key to anything with green screen is having great lighting, because a lot of times it's just making sure that you have everything well lit, especially evenly lit, because if you got a little bit of a hot spot where one's more hot than the other, it may look kind of funny. I don't know if I would say it would look kind of like wavy or
I know what you are saying. I see it on people almost. If I'm on any Zoom call with 10, 15 people, and that might be a few times a week. There's always one or two that are using that green screen, and hey, there's nothing wrong with it at all. I understand it's personal preference, but that waviness, whatever you're calling it, you can't help but be looking at it while you're watch. Do you know what I mean? Trying to see
I
when.
advise it. I advise against it in almost all cases. If you can pull it off and you're good at it, like Robert is a professional. He does it right, but there's a lot that can go wrong. Even if you get it dialed in, a lot of people are too close to the green screen, and the green will reflect onto their person, and they'll have this green haze on their skin and on their shoulders. It's not good. And Zoom has an automatic green screen, which programmatically puts in a fake background. And that's even worse, because when you move your head around, it's sort of
I think that's what I was talking about, Matt. I see that because
I'm not a fan.
I have tried it myself and didn't like it. I quickly said, no, I'm not doing this. You want to know a really funny story? You guys are the first to hear this, and it's quite embarrassing, but hey, I'm not a video pro. Again, I spend a lot of time in front of the camera, but early in the pandemic, really trying to spruce up my home office and get ready for all of this Zoom. I had been doing plenty of it beforehand, but I knew I wanted to make this more of a home studio. So you can see I got my professional microphone here. You can't see the duct tape that's holding it onto the whatever it is, tripod holding it out here in front of me. But that aside, I think I got the professional mic, got the lighting up here. I bought a inexpensive green screen, and so I wouldn't even call it a screen. It was more like tissue paper on Amazon. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be really professional. I hung it up behind me, and it was all wrinkled. So maybe that's what you were talking about, Robert, with it just didn't work right. So yeah. Guess what I tried to do, and how quickly this thing almost literally blew up on me. I brought it upstairs, got out the ironing board and started to iron it. It literally burned a big hole through it like in seconds.
No. Oh my goodness.
So
Yeah.
there was my attempt at actually using a real green screen. So I think I learned if I'm going to use a real green screen, I got to invest in something that's fairly significant. Is that right, Robert, as the professional?
Right track that definitely need to iron out the crease to get those wrinkles out. What I have is one of those I forgot what they call them, but you know, like in the hotel rooms, you have like those steam.
Yes.
That's what if the material is made out of muslin cloth, I mean that's a great thing to be able to just kind of iron out where you're using the steam to iron out those creases, and then just a matter just making sure you have proper distance away from the green screen so you don't cast the shadow. Where in addition to, like Matt says, being too close is one thing, but the other thing is just make sure that you position yourself enough distance to get rid of those shadows, and just strategically positioning the lights to be able to get that evenly
I,
filled.
I
But I
think
mean, you're on the right track right there. I mean,
no, and I think, it's test and learn, and
yeah,
it's I'm not going to forget Matt's quote. Unprofessional is the new professional. So I don't worry about too much, frankly. I mean, when I'm doing this sort of thing, because this is not what my clients hire me to do. When it comes to copywriting and marketing and anything to do with social media, that's what they're paying me to do. But hey, I'm not necessarily professional at videography like you are, Robert, or and you too, Matt, in terms of all that about being on camera, behind the camera, etc. What about back to verbose Wednesdays? And then I'm going to jump ahead to a couple other topics. I want to make sure people know how to tune in. I don't want to forget at the end of the show. It is on Wednesdays. You do it live on Facebook, correct? But then you share it elsewhere.
well, we do it live on Facebook, and just recently, about a couple of weeks ago, we also do it live on YouTube, and then we would share it on LinkedIn, and I think we also shared it on Twitter as well. So that way, folks can, for those that can't watch it live, they can certainly watch it on the replay. And I've also, to make it easier, just because it gets to be a point where, like, I think people may not catch the link. Sometimes the URL's long, but I have a page dedicated on the website that people can go to catch up on past episodes as well.
And you didn't mention LinkedIn, Robert. I think I know the answer, but what about LinkedIn? Sorry, I had to ask.
No, it's fine. It's just that I think Matt
Buckle up.
knows from our long discussions that it gets me pretty fired up. So I'm trying to make sure I don't get So for those
that's my highlight clip right there. That to promote the show, by the way. Wow.
Yeah, I should give you some other screen grabs from that, but get away from the topic. So LinkedIn Live, as you know, it's a very hard time to get access to it. They say that they're in beta mode, but at the risk of shameless promoting, we did a talk about this last week, and where we gave theories as to why that's so. For me, I'm almost inclined to say it's more of a identity problem as to, like, do they want it to offer it as a paid service or as a free service? I mean, we already know that, like, for folks that want to stream on Facebook Live or YouTube, there's no fees involved, so that it's almost as if, like, well, they already have like a paid feature on LinkedIn. Maybe they may want to offer it, maybe not. So I feel that as part of that is the question is whether if they have everything in their ducks in order to be able to present it, whether it's a paid or not. On top of that, in in talking with the folks in LinkedIn, they said that in reading in between the lines that you'd at least need to have at least 1,000, if not people you're connected to or followers, as well as having content that you post videos in LinkedIn as being really engaging to be able to be on their radar. And I'll admit, I'm a little bit stubborn in that the people I connect with at LinkedIn are ones that I like to have that we're authentically connected. Either that maybe they know you and that's how they would reach out to me, or maybe they know Matt, or we met each other at a prior event. But for those that just kind of come out of the blue and then just only connect to them just as a statistic, it didn't really seem right to me. So I mean, if I kind of play by like what the guidelines are to help increase my chances. I'd probably maybe be in a better position, but I think a lot of it just because of how I view social media as one that's as a pure form of authentically connecting with folks and just having meaningful conversation. You know, I probably might have shot myself in the foot in that way, but at the same time, knowing that they're still in the, as they
Mm-hmm.
say, beta mode, that
Mm-hmm.
it's just trying to like move on as well as to like identifying other ways to be able to stream, and that's why it's great that Facebook Live and YouTube Live
Yep.
are other avenues to be able to do that, and then just to be able to repost it on LinkedIn.
Okay. Yep. And Matt, do you have any thoughts about
I
LinkedIn
have a
in
theory.
general?
I have a
Yeah.
much simpler theory, and that is that live streaming is difficult to do. So if they do turn on live streaming to the masses, the quality of the content might go down because it's hard to do live streaming.
Mm-hmm.
It's technically easy. You can, set it up pretty, but to do it well,
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole other thing.
Totally.
So I think they might be a little gun shy. Also, when you're streaming, you're really doing a show. You're trying to capture someone's attention for usually a long time. And I think people on LinkedIn are there to look at the feed, check out the articles, look at the photos, and they just want short little hits of things. And then if LinkedIn starts to do live streaming all over the place, well, then it's going to be more of a content creator show type of vibe rather than here's what I did at work. Here's my credential I just got. Here's a cool article about my industry. Here's an article and here's what I think of it. Like that's what's on LinkedIn now. So they might be worried that the quality might go down and that it'll change the vibe of the whole service. But who knows? I'm not LinkedIn. I can only look from far and speculate.
Between the two answers is a lot of insight there and a lot of thought, and I agree with both. So to Robert's point, I agree, Robert. Keep it real, be you, authentic. I teach LinkedIn to my clients, and I tell them, especially back in the day, most people had an unwritten rule. They wanted to have met the person they're connecting with before connecting with them. I will say, Robert, that has changed, and I tell my clients that
Yeah.
most people, including myself, have loosened up those rules. But I don't agree with the channel having that as a benchmark for allowing people to broadcast, because you could be the best, and you are one of the best live streamers in the country, but hey, you keep your connections to a minimum because you want to have met them in person. I like what Matt says, and I never thought of that, that LinkedIn to me is a business social network. And if I'm an employer, first of all, you don't want to think that your employees are going on LinkedIn to watch an hour-long show or a half an hour-long show. And LinkedIn is primarily for business.
Yeah.
So if they're doing those long shows, they would have to think, okay, when is our audience going to be watching them? And we don't want to alienate our audience, which is businesses who have big budgets and are advertising, who might be afraid that their employees are getting too caught up watching, long form video on the platform. So there's a lot of, I think, moving parts to this, and to be continued, I suppose, over time. I find it a little bit of a distraction on LinkedIn, all the long form video. I'd rather go elsewhere for it, like YouTube, or go listen to a podcast, et cetera. Go ahead, Robert.
So the couple of things that I think, at least addressing the long form material, I know that there's some marketing materials that LinkedIn have released where they would try to position LinkedIn Live as a solution for virtual events, especially now with COVID and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's probably as a way to address the concerns that, who's gonna watch long form content on LinkedIn? Just to Matt's point, that it's just more like boom, 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 like short hit. So it's almost as if, well, okay, if we present examples of a long form that makes sense, I think that's probably what they may do, as to okay, if you're trying to cater towards a professional, a business environment and to your audience, LinkedIn may be an option. Hey, we got this tool that you can provide a virtual event. You can use LinkedIn Live. So I surmise that that's probably part of the solution in terms of addressing how does this fit without ruining the vibe that they're trying to establish with what they have existing. So, but
Mm-hmm.
to your point, it remains to be seen as to if they would proceed down that path or not.
Mm-hmm. So generally speaking, Matt, in terms of non-verbose Wednesdays, non-web development, social media in general, what's your favorite channel? Where do you like to hang and just enjoy yourself when you're online, in terms of social media?
Well, I run around in the woodworking crowd. I have
Ah,
another YouTube channel called Awesome Wood Things,
love that.
and that's a crazy bunch, let me tell you. So I'm on the Facebook groups around
Ah,
woodworking, and a lot of people inspire me. I mean, marketing too. I love marketing. I love learning about marketing. So I'll do the Gary V. I'll do Seth
yep.
Godin,
Oh, geez.
Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
I I love them.
Chris Brogan, Mark Schaefer.
And
You,
world technology news. I do that for fun too. Like Leo Laporte, he has a network called Twit. I know it's a funny name. It stands for This Week in Tech.
okay.
So I follow what's happening at Google, at Microsoft, at Apple, even Netflix and Amazon and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I like to know from a corporate, like the strategy of these social networks, what their goals are, what they did that didn't work out well. World technology news. I love it. I just follow
Yeah.
it for fun,
Yeah.
if you can believe it.
No,
And
I sense that about you. You're a self-admitted geek.
oh yeah.
So you said it earlier on in the
Oh
show.
yeah,
You
no,
both
it's
did.
in my email. My email address has the word geek in it. I love the word. It's not a derogatory term. It's a term of endearment.
Oh, it is in
Yeah.
2020, absolutely. But his is another term of endearment. I would say Renaissance man, based on
Oh.
everything I'm learning about you today. I mean, from
You have to have a
woodworking,
handlebar mustache to be a Renaissance man. I'm just kidding.
you could work on that. But from woodworking to world news
I could do
to
that.
yeah, geez, I told you he's got everything up his sleeve, up his short sleeves. I mean, comedy, right? I mean, I've seen you and Robert on Verbose Wednesdays. You guys can get carried away. I know.
Comedy is fun if it's natural. I tried to do comedy, and let me tell you, warning: comedy, you're either on fire or you're awful. There seems to be no in between. So move cautiously if comedy
Yes.
is your thing,
Well,
because it's a lot harder than you think.
I've done a lot of public speaking and back in the day to be comfortable on stage. I took Toastmasters and we had to give speeches that were, at least we had to try to be funny. And I learned then that speaking in general was hard enough in front of a group, never mind telling jokes.
I
Robert,
did I did an open mic once. It was 4
did you?
minutes I did. So
Okay.
that was different because I'm very comfortable public speaker.
I can
But when
tell,
you're on
yes.
that stage, all the eyes are on you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I just want to speak in clear sentences and deliver my material. And I did. And it was not as good in my mind as it was actually said. It's a lot harder than
Well,
you think.
yeah, but you survived. You're here to tell the story. Robert, social media, I because Matt and I haven't met, I don't think at all, except for tonight, and I've seen you on your show, but I don't follow Matt as much as I will in the future on social media, Matt. Robert, I know where you are on social media. I see you almost every day. So I might be able to answer this question for you, but the viewers and listeners don't. What are your favorite social media channels? Where do you hang? What do you like most about social media, et cetera, et cetera?
The short answer is yes, but the long answer, I know like we virtually cross paths in LinkedIn where we follow each other materials. So it's always a great thrill to be able to see the latest posts you have, whether it's videos or thought pieces that you have. So I tend to be more of the local boy of just seeing like how others peers are doing on LinkedIn. Um, Instagram is a great way of being able to tap into my creativity just to see how others are posting, whether it's behind the scenes or just seeing how what others are posting and try to get some inspiration in terms of whatever project I'm working on or whatever or maybe like or help with show ideas. Um, because I said Facebook Live, Facebook, just in terms of just engaging with the peers and colleagues. Anytime I get a chance to see how others are doing, whether they're posting things like thought pieces or videos or marketing, I always enjoy just to be able to read and watch and just be able to engage with them. Just because if they spend the time to watch or engage the materials on posts, it's only fair to be able to reciprocate and just share the joy, or at least to engage in healthy dialogue, since we
Well,
can't do it in person.
right.
Best thing to do it virtually.
Props to you, Rob, because you are up there at the top of my list for people who engage and respond and compliment others, and not just, thanks or congrats. You take the time to write, a short paragraph or something, and it's always authentic and genuine, and that's how you do it, man. And I give you props for that. I would
Most Wednesday, just being because I tend to be a little verbose.
You're verbose in a good way, in front of the camera, online, and I always appreciate your comments, and I know you do that with a lot of people. So thank you for being you. Can either of you, whoever presses the button first gets to answer this, name a brand, or you named some people already, Matt, but any brands, any ads you've seen lately, anything in marketing that jumps out at you that's been especially good lately, or that you think do what they do really well?
That's a tough question. Yeah.
Well, any food, restaurants, airlines, you walk outside down the street, any stores?
I don't know if any brands jump out like it should. I know, like, in terms of like YouTube programming, I know that there's a program called Hot Ones with Sean Evans, where he interviews folks or celebrities with the theme of feeding them hot, spicy wings. Uh, Although I know they say that the wings are more of a lure, but I love the way how they really prepared their questions in terms of in engaging with the guests that they have there. So a lot. So I take great joy watching that, just to be able to learn like the type of questions they ask and how they engage, and try to pick up clues on that. So that would be the first thing that just jumped to my mind.
Okay.
I like marketing that's clean, that doesn't have a lot of like Apple, love them or hate them. Apple is a good marketer. I like watches. So the Casio G-Shock brand has a very well done marketing aesthetic that's very clean, very zoomed up, not much distraction. But for video, I love the distraction. I love putting things in front of the camera and, doing different things.
You've taught me something today, Matt. You have taught me.
Oh boy. I've got plenty more, so we should connect.
And about the G-Shock, I used to love, and I still do like watches. Oh, where is mine? I took it off to watch. I just have a Fitbit now, which I love. I love my Fitbit. But I used to buy a ton of watches when watches really were a thing, before smartwatches and technology. And when, I'm a runner, and runners watches, the running watches came out, and I'm trying to think what the Timex, I can't even think of the name of them, but it was Timex had a line of running watches that I would buy. But the G-Shock, where I'm going with this, the G-Shock, I never bought one, but I always looked at it and said, admired the aesthetic and how cool it looked and modern and in the colors. And you have what, a white one?
Well, I have the rare one that you can only buy in Japan. I had them put this on a boat and ship it to America, because this has the white background. The ones in America, it's the black face and the numbers are hollow. So the numbers are white. That's the common one. I got the Japan only one. So, but they came out in the 80s. They've kept this square version. They call this, even though it's not a square, they call it the square for short. It looks exactly like it did in the 80s. It's the same stamp.
Yeah, and that's why it appeals to me, because I remember
80s was the best decade. I don't care what anyone says. 80s rule.
Yeah, new wave. Yeah, hey, I go back longer than you, Matt, into the 70s, 60s, and I was born in the 50s. So
70s was a lot of fun.
70s was,
Yeah, I was, 10 years old in the 70s, but the 80s, that's what the teenage years. So
I'm 10 years ahead of you, I think.
Okay.
And the 80s for me was New York and new wave music and nightclubs, and
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's where I got my start in marketing too, in Manhattan. You know, bright lights, big city. But we
Living.
digress. Robert,
Yeah,
did I over? You have to answer that question, or did you already?
Well, I was already
Brands.
a kid, so
Oh, you
my
mentioned the video. You mentioned
oh.
the video show. And but while Matt and I were talking, any other brands or people you want to name, mention who stand out in terms of marketing?
Oh man, I'm having like a really bad case of the mental freeze. I know there's probably a bunch floating around my head, but I'm just drawing a blank. Although I know like one thing to share is that uh, a colleague, John Kowaleski, and Matt and I,
Yeah,
we've been
John is the man I mentioned earlier in the show. Yes, maybe
yeah,
it was when we were off hadn't started recording yet. But go ahead.
right, and we worked together in keeping this a Facebook group page called Live Streaming Friends Together, and it's just a great way of having other people that either have done the workshop program that we've done or just really into live streaming, and it's a great way to engage others, either to help each other out to grow or at least to share what we know in the live streaming community. And so I'm drawing a blank of some of the members there, but just being able to engage with them and see how they're growing or help them out has been a great source of joy. This to see them interact, and I think a great way, especially now that we're all kind of
Hunkered down.
being hunkered down. Yeah.
Hey, let me ask it before I introduced you at the top of the show. I mentioned the pandemic and the coronavirus crisis, and I don't think we've talked about it much, if at all. I'm going to start winding down the show now, but let me ask you a few personal questions, if you don't mind. How are each of you doing during the pandemic, and how has life changed for you? And what can you tell me about your respective professional and personal lives that you want to share with everybody?
Uh, do you want to go counterclockwise?
Either one of you, whoever wants to press the button first.
go ahead,
Uh,
Robert.
sure. So I mean, I I know like when friends ask me, I'm pretty candid. I mean, it did affect me greatly in that because of the pandemic, I've lost a lot of work, whether it's working with either potential clients or even have to turn away work just for the fact that because I'm working from home and I live in a two-family duplex and my parents live on the first floor. So I just can't really take the chance to be able to work outside the home just because just the priorities to keep them safe.
Of
So
course.
so yeah, so the adjustment has been just to do everything remotely. And since like end of last year, since I've been transitioning to work with live streaming and anything related to video production remotely, it just provided a field to just really learn a little bit more, not just only the technical aspect, but just how things work in front of the camera, behind the camera. And so it's strange to say that it's been an eye opener and just trying to find innovating ways to try uh, to continue to grow, to learn, to progress, to be a better person, to professionally and personally. So yeah, it's just just a series of adjustments and just trying to make the best of the situation, as well as just trying to find ways to be helpful and to be engaging. Um, I guess that's the best way I can provide the Cliff Note version of it.
Yeah.
And Matt, how have you been doing?
I will share that my web development full-time day job is with an education publisher that serves the kindergarten through 12th grade. And, could there be a more stable market, a public school? But yes, even public schools were affected. So they did furlough a lot of people and brought almost everyone back. I was not furloughed, thankfully. They did reduce my pay for a long stretch. I was 20% reduction in pay. And frankly, if I get out of this with just that, I will be very thankful because many people were hit very hard. But I am full-time work at home. I've always been full-time work at home for a while now. And it hasn't impacted me much because there was no major shift. My workstation's still my workstations. I work here in this spot all day long. And I created a course right when this whole thing started of how to be awesome on YouTube. And the course is called Be Awesome on YouTube. And what better way to get through the pandemic is to learn video, because everyone is using this as an opportunity to do things video because they can't meet in person. And I have it basically free. I have 32 lessons for free. Now, there are 3 lessons that are a one-time small $15 premium, but besides those, you can get the whole course for free. And it's at, if I can plug, it's at the
I'm looking them up too myself.
allthingsyoutube.com.
allthingsyoutube.com. Yeah.
And that has been helpful because I've got a lot of people signed up, and several people, bought the premium stuff too.
Nice.
And why not? It's a little bit here, a little bit there. That's what you got to do nowadays. Diversify the income.
The gig economy. Matt.
Get the side hustle going, people.
Well, that's what the pandemic has done. You guys, I mean, you really, you pivoted during the pandemic as necessary, and you're pointing out that we're kind of all in this together, as they say, and the pandemic accelerated the pace, the adoption of technology, and those who haven't or hadn't jumped on the social media bandwagon, the technology bandwagon, the video bandwagon prior to the pandemic. I'm sure they've been scrambling to now, like you say, Matt, learn the skills they need to on YouTube, learn live streaming, Robert, which you do so well on Facebook and YouTube, and learn how to communicate online, because a lot of that, even post-pandemic, is going to stick, is my guess. A lot of companies have realized working from home, hey, it might make sense long term. Less of a commute, savings in terms of gas, savings in terms of real estate. And hey, maybe our employees, companies are saying, are working even more hours at home, getting more done. So it's a win-win. And so technology is what makes it all possible. Social media, video, audio, et cetera. Let's wind down, guys. I really, really appreciate it, Matt and Robert. Let everybody know how they can reach you individually, how they can watch Verbose Wednesdays, whatever you want to say in your closing remarks, if you will. Please take time, as much time as you want, both of you individually. Tell people how they can follow you, watch you. Hold up those props, Matt. Get them all ready.
You want me to do a couple now?
Yeah.
So I have a group on Facebook called All Things YouTube. So you can go, that's free. Join the group and you can ask questions and even answer questions. Answering questions is fun. And, I love to teach. And guess what? I learn a lot while I teach. And when you answer questions, it's like teaching. So yeah, you can go there, allthingsyoutube.com. That'll get you to my YouTube channel. It'll get you to the YouTube group. It'll get you to the course. I have a Patreon, All Things YouTube. People who sign up for Patreon can ask me questions directly.
I need to look into that. I've learned so much from you, Matt, today.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. Definitely get on the group. That's free. That costs you nothing.
All Things YouTube.
Yeah, I have all of these things are channels or shows that I do. This is a big channel I have. I have almost 8,000 subscribers on Awesome. If you want to watch
8,001 because I followed you today.
Sweet.
Yes.
I do some other piano. Awesome. I played my piano. And
you play piano too? I told you, Renaissance man.
I've been a year and a half. I've been teaching myself through an app. I bought an app on the iPhone, and it's teaching me how to.
What don't you do, Matt? Jeez, amazing.
Well, it was the next creative thing because I'm a creative person.
Yeah.
And I've mastered the visual space. I've been in, doing book illustrations all my life. And then I've been doing video editing for 10, 12 years. And I'm like, what's the next thing? Music.
There you go. Boom.
I would go. Yeah. So that's how you can find me.
So Robert, Matt's a tough act to follow. Tell us all your different places to find you and follow you, and where can people jump in and engage with Robert Lee?
Well, the keep things simple, and plus my handwriting's, to put it mildly, is not legible. I thought I'd make it easier for everyone so that if folks want to try to reach me, the best way to do it is
Love it.
You can send an email to me at robertl@ShaLaLaProductions.com. If people want to see the prior episodes of Verbose Wednesday, they can go to the website. Up on the tab under I think news and media. They click on there. There's a tab for Verbose Wednesday. They can go there, or they can go to the YouTube channel. All the social media icons are at the homepage so that people can find it. So I thought it'd just be easier that refer them to the website, and they can go there. It
You
would
guys
be
are amazing. You are a dynamic duo. I mean, if it's not one thing, you have another thing up your sleeve. And that's why you guys have this great show called Verbose Wednesdays that everybody should tune into, follow, subscribe to, watch, engage with Matt Haas and Robert Lee. You guys, thank you. I can't thank you enough. I think it's been a great hour or so, maybe hour plus of conversation. And I hope you've gained, by the time everybody watches this long episode, I hope you've gained a lot of new fans. You certainly deserve a huge following, each of you. I've learned a lot from each of you. Do you have something else to show, Robert? You had something in your hand there.
They're interested in getting a coaster. My brother, oops, I got upside down. Try that again. There we go. If people want to drop me a line, just let me know where they want to mail it. All they have to do is send me an email, and I'll certainly send you one if you're interested, Bob.
Yeah. So email Robert and peace and love. That's Ringo Starr's thing, peace and love.
If you like woodworking, I give these out for free. Just tell me where to ship it. I'll ship anywhere in the world if you want an awesome wood thing sticker.
I can't compete with Matt and Robert. My audience is going to transition to following Matt and Robert because Bob doesn't have anything to give out for free. But you know what? The next show, I may have some props because I've learned from Matt Haas and Robert Lee. These guys are amazing. Folks, thanks for listening to Bob Cargill's Marketing Show. I appreciate you tuning into the podcast and watching us via YouTube and wherever else I get to share this ridiculously awesome video and podcast with both Matt and Robert. Two great guys, wealth of knowledge, both of them. And thank you, Matt. Thank you, Robert. Thanks to all my listeners and viewers, and we'll talk to you again. We'll see you again soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.